Oh, good point. Okay, so this is a photo of most of the 25 plus staff who work for CCAN. We are an organization that punches significantly above our weight. Why is that? Well, we're a regional organization with organizing staff working in DC, Maryland, and Virginia, and we do work on a local and a state level. We also have a federal team that's focused on lobbying legislators and agencies, and our campaign and advocacy teams work hand in hand with our communications, development, and executive leadership to build a dynamic organization that has a voice on a local, state, and national stage. But really, our goal is to work ourselves out of a job, and the number one thing we care about is helping volunteers like you get ready to build a powerful grassroots movement. And that's what we're all about. Next slide, please. Okay, so at CCAN, we envision a world without fossil fuels, with a clean and healthy environment for all, where transit is accessible, climate resilient, and affordable for all, and where we are not dependent solely on cars to get around, where energy bills are affordable, where a net zero economy provides opportunity and prosperity to those whom fossil fuel capitalism has left out. Next slide, thanks. We know it's going to take a lot of work to get there. Building this world that we envision requires a vibrant and functioning democracy where people can vote and have their voices heard at all levels of government, and where politicians respond to their constituents. It requires staying focused on securing a climate justice future for those most impacted. And it requires demanding that our government develop a bold vision for addressing climate change. If we do all of these things, we'll position ourselves and our communities to avoid the worst consequences for climate change and maintain hope for a livable future for generations to come. Okay, so now that we've shared a little bit, and now that most of you have introduced yourselves in the chat, thanks for doing that. We want to hear more from you. We have time for just a few comments. So I would love it if someone could raise their virtual hand and share what values are driving you to be a part of the CCAN community. What brings you here tonight? And if you don't know how to raise your virtual hand, it's the little react button with the heart at the bottom of the screen. Click that and then, yeah, great. Laureen, go ahead. Oops, I'm going to unmute you. Let's see if I can do that because you are still muted.
Um,
There we go.
I have wanted to get involved around disability, and so far I haven't found a place to do that. I think disability still scares people, and I think that to really be effective, we need to involve everybody. And disabled people are not less than anyone else, and we have real concerns about pollution and water and cooling systems and ways to get out of a disaster. And I'm really looking for a place where we can be included.
Thank you so much for sharing that, Laureen. I really appreciate that. And I so agree that we need to make sure that we are including all voices in our movement. And I really appreciate you sharing. Would someone else like to raise their hand and tell me what values are driving you to be a part of the CCAN community? And if not, we can also, oh, Casey, go ahead.
Sure, I'll talk. Um, I I care a lot about, I guess, just like fairness, but I guess maybe a better word to say would be like equity, if we want to use that one. And to me, this just seems like a pretty logical thing. Like we've known, the evidence shows that fossil fuels are raising the temperature of the planet, and that has a lot of knock-on effects. It seems that we unfortunately have not been able to avoid no effects to our planet. But like, the best time to start living yesterday, but the second best time to start is now. And a lot of work has already been done. But it just seems clear to me, especially with everything going on, that if you, I guess, just like kind of sit around and wait for somebody else to do something, then you're kind of ceding the ground to the people who are willing to like talk to legislators and get involved on like a community level. And I think that that arena has been just like historically drowned out, especially monetarily by like um, big oil and like fossil fuel companies, etc. And I'm hoping to be one like little part of hopefully the solution. And of course, environmental justice groups have been like active for decades at this point, but I hope to jump in and continue
Good.
as the effects become more obvious.
Thank you so much for sharing that. Yes, I agree. There's like we can't avoid the worst of it at this point, but there's so much that we can do and so much that we can save. And it's an all hands on deck moment. And so thank you for sharing, Casey. I know Linda had her hand up or had their hand up, but we're going to actually move on for the sake of time. I hope that's okay, Linda. But we'll also get a chance to share more in our breakouts in a little bit. Now we're going to hear briefly about some campaigns and victories in CCAN's different regions. So first, I'm going to hand it over to Dustin so you can hear about some of our work in Maryland.
All right, how's it going, y'all? So earlier this year in February, Democratic leadership in the Maryland General Assembly, so our state representatives, announced a new energy package that included significant incentives for building out a new gas plant. It was called the Next Generation Energy Act. And those provisions included shortening the time period for getting necessary permits, skirting public disclosure, and the opportunity for the public to even comment and provide feedback on these plans. So up until that point, from the very first day of session in January, our community of grassroots volunteer lobbyists had been lobbying, had been submitting testimony, and making calls to their elected officials in support of our climate justice platform, with the landmark bill being legislation that would require, like in New York and Vermont, polluters, the biggest polluters, to pay for their contributions to the climate crisis. But then without warning, we had to pivot and focus on stripping out as much of these gas incentives as possible. Our volunteers were furious. So we organized a group of high school students, and this is one of our pictures from that day for our very first student lobby day. About 50 students from the Friends School here in Baltimore City. We also organized for our lobby night, our annual lobby night, one of our biggest ever, 100 plus attendees for our lobby night in Annapolis, 37 out of 47 legislative districts represented. We organized a weekly action in Annapolis on Lawyers Mall, which is also my background, called Fossil Free Fridays, where we rallied, we lobbied our legislators as they're going up to the floor, and we attended joint legislative hearings with some of those shirts that you saw in our big group photo, that No New Gas. So even though some of our volunteers couldn't make it to Annapolis, a lot of folks all across the country even volunteered to call CCAN members and voters in key legislative districts to get them to contact their legislators. So we made over 5,000 phone calls to constituents in priority districts. Some of our volunteers organized postcard writing parties for their friends so they could write personal notes to their legislators. And while we were fighting those bad provisions, our volunteers kept on talking about the solutions that we know do work to address the climate crisis. So making polluters cover the cost of projects in our communities that could help them deal with extreme weather events, building out more solar and more battery storage, and stopping utility companies from charging customers all this money to cover the cost of unnecessary upgrades and replacement of gas infrastructure. In the middle of March, one of our organizers was told by legislative staff, I don't know who that organizer was, might have been me, I don't know. But one of our organizers was told that they were getting contacted a lot about that bill. No more calls, no more postcards, they said. And so our volunteers responded with more phone calls and more postcards and even more emails, and we got the job done. We got those provisions stripped from the Next Generation Energy Act. That constant pressure from hundreds of constituents with their own personal stories about what they've been seeing and feeling throughout years of this ongoing climate crisis caused leadership to fold on those incentives and pass a bill that included many of the provisions that we were looking for to begin with. And that's very complicated, but that's the number one way that organized people can beat organized money. And it was really, really incredible. But I want to pass it to you, Isla.
Yeah, thank you for that story. I also want to share a little bit about what the advocacy has looked like in DC and what it's like to be a volunteer here in DC, thinking locally. So just for some context, most recently, our advocacy in DC has been oriented around stopping these like major and unnecessary investments in fossil fuels by exposing the profit motives behind the gas company and standing up for lower bills and less investment in methane gas in DC. So yeah, I want to invite one of our star volunteer leaders to pop on and share a little bit about, yeah, how you got involved with CCAN and what it's been like so far to be a volunteer. So yeah, welcome, Syra.
Hi, thank you all for having me today. Thank you for that nice compliment, Isla. I definitely don't feel like the star. I feel like we have a lot of great members on our team. But yeah, I got started with CCAN. I was just looking at, you know how you go through your photos, and I didn't realize that my first CCAN event was this one that's actually on the screen right now, and that was in 2023, I think. And the reason was because in February of 2023, I went through a gas leak in my building, and it was pretty traumatic. I apologize to all of the people that have already heard this like a million times, but yeah, so I basically came home and my door was like battered open, and it's a metal door, so that's obviously like somebody was trying to get in, and my first inclination was like somebody broke in, like I need help, all these things. I couldn't find my dog. And then it was just chaos, and you could hear me screaming like bloody murder on the street. It was not a good night. Anyways, I later found out from the police that we had a gas leak, and obviously it drove me to talk to neighbors, and my beautiful, lovely neighbor who you probably talked to or met at one point in time. Her name is Jessica Lusty. She introduced me to CCAN and actually invited me to this protest. And of course, I couldn't say no. And it was an incredible experience to witness so many strong individuals fighting for the same thing. And it just made me want to be a part of that. Kind of like what Casey was saying earlier, just makes you feel like you're doing your little part to help. So yeah, so that's how I ended up here. Now I'm on the action team, and I'm super happy to be here and happy to help in any way that I can.
Awesome. Thank you so much for sharing. And if you are based in DC, you can chat with Syra and I some more about more specific things that we also do as DC volunteers. But yeah, thank you so much for sharing that story, Syra.
Cool. Me now, Isla? Oop. And we should be on the Virginia slide. Yay. So in Virginia, our grassroots volunteers have been stopping fossil fuel build out, lobbying for make polluters pay and clean energy bills, advocating for data center guardrails, winning local budget fights for park funding, getting their hands dirty, pulling invasive plants and planting trees, and collaborating with our communications team to write timely entries for CCAN's blog and letters to the editor. We currently have action teams in Nova, Central Virginia, and Hampton Roads, each with their own volunteer-led campaigns and regional issues to plug into. Some examples, our Nova team, Nova New Leaf, is educating the public about energy efficiency and electrifying everything. In Central Virginia, RCAA members have been hard at work stopping the Chesterfield gas plant. And our 757 climate action team right now is showing up at the Chesapeake City Council meeting tonight to convince them to vote against a fracked gas compressor station. I am going to now invite Preston, one of our volunteers in Nova, to share a little bit about what brought him to volunteer with CCAN and how he's been getting involved so far. Go
Hey
ahead, Preston.
everyone, my name's Preston. Like Ting said, I've only been with CCAN for a fairly kind of about a half a year now. So here's kind of my story of how I came to be here. So like I'm sure like a lot of us, involvement with climate movement, environmental movement, kind of combined two things really for me, and that's like love of nature and interest in politics, two things that during my childhood and adolescence really kind of coalesced. Um, the environment really started to become a major kind of political focus for me, actually with the COVID pandemic, when that put a spotlight on how our treatment of animals and encroachment on the natural world affects us all on a global scale. It caused me to rethink some of my behaviors and think about just personal actions I could take to live more sustainably and more in line with my ideals. A catalyzing moment for that reflection really was in early 21 when one of my favorite bands, Architects, released an album titled For Those That Wish to Exist, which was about the climate crisis and asking the listener to question what each of us can do to combat it. So around that time, I became a pescatarian out of ethical and environmental concerns, and I've tried to become more vegan or vegetarian since then. Uh, Later that year, I interned with the legislative arm of the Humane Society, and in the time since, I've made efforts to kind of educate myself more on issues affecting animals in our environment. And I've taken actions like buying an electric vehicle, volunteering at animal shelter, and earlier this year, joining CCAN. I've only been with CCAN for a fairly short time, about half a year now, but in that period of time, I've met plenty of great, really smart people. At the very first CCAN monthly meeting I attended, which I think was like the very first event CCAN I attended, I instantly felt like this is a great group and great people, and this is where I want to be. So I helped out with outreach efforts, like tabling at an Earth Day festival, sort of kind of like what you see on the screen there, and I've been learning a lot about clean energy adaptation by following the developments of our electrification team, and looking forward to participating in lobbying efforts later this year.
Thanks so much, Preston. Mustafa, I'm going to hand it over to you.
Okay, great. Dustin, we can go to the next slide. And the next one. Sorry about the out of order here. Yeah. Okay. Uh yeah, we'll stick with the discussion here for a moment. Um I just want to invite folks to think about this question of um, just how you relate to the stories that you heard from Syra and um, from our volunteers. And I just want you to uh, also from our staff, just about both the choices that they've made, but also the work that we're doing. And I want you to go into your breakouts thinking about what how you connect to them, but also what is motivating to you. So just take a moment right now before we go on to invite our federal staff person, Gabby, to share what's happening on the federal level. Just take a moment right now to sear into your memory, write down on a note on a piece of paper next to you or on your phone, just what are the things that you're connecting with? And we'll take a moment to do that, and then we're gonna move on to Gabby. Okay. Gabby, I'm gonna pass it over to you. You can unmute yourself. Hopefully folks have taken note of what they're connecting with. Gabby.
Hi, everyone. So as I mentioned earlier, I'm the federal campaigns coordinator here at CCAN. So I'm working on our advocacy at the federal level. And I'm going to summarize really briefly the things that we've been working on recently. So for those of you who have been paying attention to the news, I imagine you guys have seen a lot of attacks on climate and clean energy. At least I hope. But if not, that's what's been going on under the recent administration with, historic investments from the Inflation Reduction Act, including the tax credits that allowed so much clean energy to flourish across the country, being rolled back with the recent One Big Beautiful Bill. So we worked a lot to make sure, well, to advocate that clean energy tax credits be preserved. But, the Congress, at least the GOP, decided otherwise. So we're just continuing to try to salvage things and advocate for continued clean energy build out. Other than that, we've also been advocating for key government agencies that advanced our understanding of climate, weather, and the environment. And this includes like NOAA, the national, which governs the National Weather Service. So making sure we just have accurate forecasts, and also been working a lot on improving FEMA's delivery of services. We've been working on that since around December of this year, and that work has been continuing to pick up. And on that note, I have a petition to share with people based in Virginia that asks Governor Youngkin to use his position on the FEMA Council, which is currently going on, to strengthen FEMA and not to get rid of it. So I'm going to put the link in the chat right now for you guys to look at, and please message me if you have any questions about that petition. And also on that note, we are working to submit comments to 8 government agencies to decry climate, clean energy, environment, and health rollbacks that are currently on the table. So that's just a summary of the work that we're doing right now. And the best way to continue getting plugged into this work is through our email list. So signing up to receive emails from us is the best way to learn about the work we're doing, whether it's to sign petitions, make calls, submit comments, etc. So yeah, that's all from me, and I'll pass it back to you, Mustafa.
My goodness, Gabby, that was efficient. Thank you, Gabby. So I'm going to open up rooms for us to go into, but hold on, don't join the rooms yet. We're gonna ask for you all to join the breakout for your state or just your appropriate team. There's DC, there's Maryland, there's Virginia, and then there's the federal breakout. We're going to discuss several things. One is just what's bringing all of you to the climate justice movement. What types of initiatives and campaigns are you interested in? And what is CCAN working on currently, and how can you get involved? And just outstanding questions that you have. Facilitators, I think we're going to wrap this up. We're going to bring the group back at 7:55, and we'll just connect as a large group. on what folks are taking away and what are their next steps coming out of this before we wrap up. And so we'll take this until 7:50, like 5. Before we go into the breakouts, I also want to share that we are doing we are doing work to protect trees in the DMV. We have an invasive vines manager who is building teams of volunteers in DC and Prince George's County and in Fairfax that have been doing lots of work over the last almost year to saving, literally at this point, I think it's about 1,000 trees at this point that they've saved by removing invasive vines. And so I wanted to just share that with you all. That is in our link tree that we're sharing. We have events that are coming up in DC and in Prince George's County and in Northern Virginia. So if you're motivated about that, please share that with your facilitator, and we will absolutely get you the information about how you can get plugged into that. So I'm going to invite folks to join your breakout. Excuse me. And if you have any problem seeing the invitation to join a breakout, do let me know and I'll make sure you get to the right breakout room. Okay, great. We can leave just this slide up. Actually, Dusty, you can leave the contact information up there for folks can see it. We will have a follow-up email that's going to go out tomorrow with the recording of the main session. But there's 3 things that I want to ask for you all to make sure that you do. One is our relationships are the bedrock of our work. We do have things that we can just plug volunteers into, but we know that the work is better and people are more invested if they see that the work that they're doing is really in alignment with the things that they want to do, the things that excite them to get up every day, the things that maybe even keep you up at night, that give you anxiety. You're doing something about it. And we want to get you plugged into the things that you're really, really passionate and motivated to do. So relationships are really important there. Getting to know you is really important. The second thing is that we have a whole series of events that are happening across our organization over the next month, in-person and virtual events. You hopefully have heard your organizers share, the facilitators share some of that information. But that will also be in the follow-up email. And if somebody can plop the link tree again in the chat, that would be great. I just want you to walk away from tonight with a plan to come to an event in the near future, virtual or in person. The last thing that I think I want to share is just that I want to invite folks to, if you'd like to come off mute in the last 2 minutes here, to just share what are the things that you're connecting with that you heard today. And if there's a next step that you have in mind, a next thing that you want to come to and participate in. So I want to invite folks to share that. You can either come off mute or put it in the chat.
There's a lot going on and not a lot of time.
Sure.
But I think so it's hard to like pinpoint any one thing, but just one thing I wrote earlier in response to the stories was just like personal agency and like feeling, I mean, seeing other people choosing to do things, is definitely, is helpful for me.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Personal agency. Love to hear that, Sarah. Anybody else feel that personal agency, or there's something else that you want to share that is motivating you, or is making you feel connected to folks in the space?
Just a practical suggestion.
Yes.
I think one of your biggest allies could be the homeowners insurance companies who are getting fed up with the tremendous costs that they're incurring thanks to global warming and stupid decisions by local politicians. And I remember years ago, they were very active in asking decision makers to please do something about global warming because their calculations accurately, as they're now discovering, know that global warming has a tremendous impact on their ability to issue policies. And now homeowners are often faced with extraordinarily high policies or no renewal at all. And so I think they could counteract the tremendous influence that the oil industry has on some of our elected officials.
Yeah, a great thought in terms of our campaigning and the strategy. Absolutely. Um, does anybody else want to share something that they heard today that was personally motivating to them as we wrap up?
Ting mentioned it in the chat, but
Yeah.
when I first met her, I was like, oh great, I can give someone my spiel about my graduate school project about the insurance crisis that is going on in both Florida and California right now that's being driven by global warming and it being kind of a huge problem.
Yeah,
But
absolutely.
yeah. Yeah.
Well, Casey, I want to say we
spare.
should definitely connect because I'm working on federal disaster relief and know about the connection between insurance, home ownership, all those things. So I would love it if we could chat further about this because
Yeah, sure.
I have strategically avoided it because I know it's a can of worms that's like 400 miles long. But I would love to chat with you because it's so increasingly necessary.
Yeah.
Thank you
Sure.
so much for that. Thank you so much for sharing that, Casey, and thanks for your work on it. And this is exactly, I mean, on that note, this is actually exactly how we approach the work. We want to again, to be identifying the things that you are particularly excited and interested in doing. So if you walk out of from here just with one thing is just is scheduling a one-on-one with your organizer, with a person that the staff person that you heard from today that you want to connect with, like Gabby in the case of Casey, do that. The relationships are the bedrock of the work, and the way that we're going to be able to help each other and protect our communities is actually by being in community with each other in the face of the climate crisis. So thanks so much to all of you, and we look forward to seeing you at a next event, maybe hopefully in the next month. That would be great to have you come out to one. So thanks y'all so much.
Be well,
I'm
everybody.
going to stay on for a few more minutes if folks have questions and you would like to linger, but I want to give folks permission to leave if you have something else to get to.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks to Ting and Mustafa.
Thanks, Brian. Thanks for joining. Look
Thanks,
forward to
Brian.
seeing you.
Thank you, Maya. I'll be in touch.
Thanks, Gabby.
All right.
Richard.
Thanks so much, David. Okay. Robert or Daniel, Richard, do you have any other questions? Facilitators, I know that it is late. You are welcome to head out. My one request to you is that if you have a few minutes, you could just jot down if notes of things that went well, things that didn't go so well. It's the first time doing this iteration of it, and would love to talk about that more at the organizers meeting on Thursday. Okay, all right. Looks like we're ready to wrap. Thanks so much, everybody.